lose you.
So what's happened with Jinx is that she's seen someone that's triggered an anxiety response, someone that looks like Vi, so much so that she thinks that it might actually be Vi. She goes through a full anxiety response, and anxiety gives us this shot of epinephrine, what we call adrenaline, and it ends up having that fight or flight effect. But fight or flight is not just fight or flight, it's fight, flight, freeze, or faint. And for Jinx, you can tell she freezes.
I can't lose you. Why did you lose me? Because you're a Jinx!
And in a fraction of a second, her brain sends her with all of these different images. All of these situations flash inside of her head, which often happens to us. All of the hurt, the painful memories, and the good ones come flooding back to her as she's frozen in time in that moment, as she's confronted with the possibility that her hopes and dreams and fears are in front of her right now. And when she goes into fight mode, you can see she's not really there. You can actually see her eyes change from anger to that deer in headlights. And you can see the worry of she's not even in control of herself anymore. What happens is when we get that flood of adrenaline, our limbic system chemically shuts down our working memory. What that means is that we're kind of just going on autopilot. And you can see by her shots, she doesn't know where she's shooting. She's no longer in control. And if you can see the look on her face, there's so much worry as she's not in control. If you've ever been really anxious or really angry, it's us at our worst. Even when we're doing something that's right, we're not really there, and you just want to go up and hug her and let her know, dodge some of the bullets, and let her know that everything's gonna be okay. And that look of horror as her eyes come to of what has just happened, what have I just done? Even if you do all of the breathing techniques and the distraction techniques, it's really hard when you get that shot of adrenaline into your system to be able to cope with it. That's why it takes so much training. If you end up with a lot of anxiety attacks, it's really hard when you're going through them to be able to do anything else. If someone asks you to do math during that period of time, you're going to be like, I can't. I'm too busy trying to make sure that I'm not drowning. And you can hear her breathing. That's what happens, is that our heart starts pumping really fast, our breathing becomes short, and it takes time to be able to come down. Usually an anxiety or panic attack lasts for about 15 to 40 minutes. But the good news is it's not actually physically dangerous for you, but just really unpleasant.
It wasn't. I know, just some wannabe street trash. I got confused, that's all.
Now, is this just negative self-talk, or is she actually hearing auditory hallucinations? It's not clear from this scene. It definitely is symbolic that Milo, the person that has teased and bullied her, carries a lot of these negative self-talk, whereas when you see the symbols of Clagor,
now he thinks I'm weak. Savika will clean it up. Savika's a regular Johnny on the spot.
the little Clagor stuffy, it's more positive or supportive, or she's gonna figure a way out of it. The voices that we carry inside of our heads, that negative self-talk, often happens to us from our childhood. Things that have happened to us, things that we've heard someone say. We take them and they become a part of who we are. You hear something enough times, even if it's a bold-faced lie, you will believe that it's true.
I'm not weak.
That's how marketing works. That's why advertising works. You have to be really careful. What are you advertising about who you are to yourself? Its effects have a great importance into your self-esteem and who you see yourself as a person. For Jinx, it's become who she is. It's even in her name. I like that in a lot of ways she's taken the word Jinx that was used as a negative and made it into something powerful and positive. But you can tell by going through these dialogues that there's still a lot of hurt and pain in the words that were once used against her.
It's all about these runes. Mathy, magic-y gateway. So, here goes.
So this is kind of really important. It's just like a micro moment, but I want to pay attention to it because here she is doing something that's a risk, has a risk of failure. And if you ever have as a strong fear, the fear of failure, that moment right before you do it, those negative self-talk come back to haunt us. And you can see for Jinx, that little flash of the stuffy of Milo that says something to her, and that huff of, oh my God, is this gonna work or is it not? That negative self-talk, when we talk about how much of an effect it has on us, it can stop us. Those thoughts of why even try, you're not good enough, what makes you think that you're gonna become something, it can hold us back, and hold us back so much so that we don't continue to try. But I love that for Jinx, even though she has this really strong set of negative self-talk, she still does try. Unfortunately, it doesn't go well. The explosion is so similar to the event that ended up killing her family members that it brings back that post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic stress happens when we've gone through something that was so traumatic, and it doesn't leave us. It leaves us with trigger memories, difficulty sleeping, anger, reactivity, the inability to function, to feel good. That's what happened to Jinx in this moment. She ends up with this memory of the last time that her experiment went awry. How painful it is to have made a mistake, and it's constantly there with you. It's so hard to let go, and to deal with post-traumatic stress, it really is often the best thing to deal with a licensed therapist to be able to go through it, because it's so painful to go back to a scene that's caused you emotional damage. And remember, for your brain doesn't know the difference between emotional and physical hurt. To your brain, it is just as painful. And in a lot of cases, the emotional hurt hurts more.
No, it was a mistake. It was a mistake.
And you see the bunny that symbolizes Vi, another person that she ended up losing because of this. And her no, it was a mistake. This is not her talking about this experiment. She fully went back to the place of her when she was powder and this experiment happened. And she's going back to the fact of how sorry she is that she made this mistake. And the things that can trigger post-traumatic responses, they can be from anywhere. You don't really have control over them. It could be a smell, it could be the sight, it could be a sound, it could be a person, an area. We're very, very associative. It's our brain trying to make sure that it protects us from having it happen again. In being constantly reminded about that, it causes us emotional distress. Remember, 100,000-year-old brain, so it's a smart thing if we go back to that grassy area that we were bit by a rattlesnake to have that reminder of rattlesnakes are here. But for this kind of pain in a more modern society, it's very little benefit to us because lots of the events will never happen again. But to our antiquated brain that hasn't evolved in a really long time, will still keep on reminding us. And that's just really painful.
It was a mistake. It was a mistake.
For Jinx, she runs away from it. She still hasn't confronted this event that's happened so many years ago. And if you don't deal with it, it stays there. You really do need to take the time to go through it and settle it so that you can come to peace with it.
What's the matter, Milo? Worried Powder's gonna beat you again?
I think it's really significant for Jinx to then go back to a place of her childhood to be able to confront some of these voices.
He's different. He's strong.
And here she is physically fighting all of those symbolic memories of Vi, the ones that are beautiful and loving and keep her going, but also the hurtful and painful ones. And we can often feel both really loving and caring about someone, yet still hurt and angry at them at the same time. This causes a lot of internal conflict with us. But I like the way that Jinx is actually dealing with it. One is that she's getting it out in a way that's healthy. She's trying to see if she can live up to her sister's shadow. And you can see all that emotional pain and angst in her as she's screaming and crying, which is very reminiscent to the way that she would deal with it when she was Powder, those screams, those primal feelings. In this way, though, she's not destroying anything. She's trying to reach something, to try to reach and fill those shoes that her sister left off, to see if she, as an adult, can be as strong as Vi was. When we have someone that we idolize, that we look up to, even if we do surpass them, in our minds we often don't. We put people on pedestals that we can't actually reach. I love this scene, not just because she's wearing the awesome goggles, but because here we see it. We see her in her element. She is spinning around. There's magic. She's creating something. This is what makes her special. This is what she was made to do. And I think that this is Jinx truly reclaiming her identity. And I think that in this moment, she fully understood what Vi had said to her as a child. What you do that is different is what makes you special. And I think that she fully owns it. That spin, the braids going everywhere, like she's owning who she is as a person and truly coming into her own strengths. She's not walking the path that her sister left for her. She's making her own. You can feel that she's in the flow. Flow is when you're just vibing. You lose space and time. Everything just seems to be in order and nothing else around you matters. It's that wonderful feeling of being at the center of the universe and in sync with everything you do.
I feel like you and I got off on the wrong arm. Maybe we should try the other.
Shots fired. You can tell that there is no love lost between Jinx and Savika. She really went in to try to hurt her where it would hurt most, aimed for her weaknesses.
It's your sister. She's back. She's looking for you. It's not what you think. She's with some girl enforcer. Guess she replaced you.
And you can see Savika. She knows exactly which buttons to press to be able to hurt Jinx. And she really touched upon a wound. You know that someone touches upon a wound with you when your anxiety or anger levels go from 0 to 100 in a heartbeat. And you can feel that response in your body immediately.
You're lying!
It's only a matter of time before you implode and Silco finally gets the message that you're about as good for our cause as you were for your family, Jinx.
She's planting little tiny seeds of doubt. Seeds of doubt of who Jinx is as a person, because the way that she said Jinx, it wasn't her name. That was an accusation that she is going to damage things just like she did in the past, that she hasn't grown or gotten better.
10 out of 10, Toots. I think I know just how to deliver that message.
So was she actually really hurt when you saw that pain in her eyes? Or was she just pretending to be hurt so that Savika felt like she got one over on her and then she was able to turn it around? I think that in this case, she actually felt physically hurt and bothered, and then caught herself that there is no way that out of anyone in the world that she would allow Savika to have the satisfaction of getting one over on her, and caught it. And the reason for that is her response. That is payback. That is, you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you first. You wanna humiliate me? I'm gonna humiliate you tenfold for it. And when you're very reactive, you often wanna hurt the people that hurt you. And for Jinx, she can't get to Milo. She can't get to the hurt she has towards her sister. And so Sevika is this perfect placeholder where she can put all of her anger and angst. Plus, she does it towards Silco, the person that Sevika wants to humiliate her in front of. Well, she's gonna do it first. Almost a mockery. So Silco will see who really is the one that's a detriment to the cause. This is one of my favorite moments because even though she has all of this fear of being abandoned, she still trusts her sister's words enough, one, to have kept the flare, and two, to actually risk being abandoned again. And I love that, like, she doesn't even hold it close to her or tight or hidden. She fully leans into it. This is her putting everything she has on the line. In this, it's more symbolic that Milo symbolizes her pain. You see him in that silent scream, crying out. And you see Claggor with his goggles off, looking up in hope, stoically hopeful that Vi is actually gonna show up. When we do something that risks who we are, that would hurt and makes us vulnerable, we often are carrying like a backpack all of those pains and negative voices that are with us. And I love the fact that she was still able to risk it and try, even if it might have failed. And you can feel that anger. And anger at what? Like that anger at herself. That anger at herself for being silly enough to think that this could have worked. That childhood dream that her sister would come back for her after all of these years, why would she? That maybe all of those voices that she isn't good enough, that maybe they really are right. And how silly she was to think that it might be different.
It doesn't matter. I never thought I'd see you again.
Are you real?
Yes.
I think it's such a heartfelt moment that she got to be reunited with Vi, because that helps that feeling of being abandoned and lets her know that her sister really did love her. But those words of, "Are you real?" Often we'll say that when something is too good to be true, but for Jinx, you can hear that there's a reality in that she really is wondering, is Vi really there? I think that for Jinx, she's gone through so much trauma that she's having a difficulty in knowing what is fantasy and what is reality. And I think that this scene really shows the gravity of all of the traumas have had upon her psyche and the damage that they have done.
Who's she?
She's a friend.
Sevika wasn't lying? You're with an enforcer?
And there we have it, those seeds that Sevika planted, they're coming to fruition. We're so worried that the things that we fear most are going to actually happen, that we often will go to the worst case scenario first without giving someone the benefit of the doubt. We feel like it will hurt less if we go to the worst case scenario, that she was wrong, that Sevika must have been right, that she didn't really care about her, that she really only wants the Hex gemstone. All of these things come back like armor to protect us, because at least if we're already on the ground, there's nowhere lower that we can go.
Listen, we can work this out.
This is a trick! You're playing me! Shut up! I'm in no mood.
We didn't say anything.
I wasn't talking to you.
And there we have also that first sign that she probably really is hearing auditory hallucinations, possibly also having visual hallucinations, but we can't be sure from the way that it's represented here. Because she says not, "Shh, I'm thinking," or "I'm talking to myself," but she says, "I'm not talking to you," meaning she's talking to someone else, and she points the gun in a direction, so she's hearing it from an area. Now, what is she actually dealing with? That's really difficult because in order to find out, you'd have to ask her specific questions. I would first want to know if these voices are inside her head or outside of them, though from this representation it does sound like it's outside. What can cause auditory hallucinations can be many things. It could be that she's starting out with the onset of schizophrenia, which would happen around this age. It could be that she's dealing with bipolar disorder or drug addiction, sleep deprivation, all the trauma that she's gone through, having a fever. These things can cause this. I'm not going to give her a diagnosis because it's unfair. I can't really talk to her, but I do think that she's hearing auditory hallucinations, and it's something that if she was my patient, I would want her to go to a specialist to have her be properly diagnosed and treated.
Liar.
And so now you can see all of those negative self-talks coming back from her. And it's kind of interesting because if she is dealing with auditory hallucinations, they're very specific depending on what culture you grow up in. In a lot of other cultures where people believe that their relatives speak to them or that these voices can be often helpful and positive. Yet in North American culture, often these voices are negative and detrimental and harsh on us. And for her, she's at least responding to them. Now, again, there are certain fields of thought that you should just ignore if you're dealing with auditory or visual hallucinations and pretend that they're not there. Whereas others, if you're dealing with negative self-talk, it's healthy and good to be able to talk back to it and let it know that it doesn't have power over you, that I'm not going to buy into your lies or negativity. You can see Jinx looking at Caitlin. She sees a skewed view of her, which is a stark juxtaposition of the way that Vi saw Caitlin when Jinx was lifting the platter. As many of you said, too many to name, but she saw this beautified version of who Caitlin was, and that's who she represents to Vi. In our mind, when we replay events, they're often skewed by our emotional feelings towards someone. Someone that you really care about will look more beautiful, just like Caitlin did. And for Jinx, she sees Caitlin as this demonic figure that is going to take Vi away from her. We see things filtered through the facets of our fears, filtered through who we expect someone else to be. Even if it's completely inaccurate, we'll actually see things that prove our own points to us as stronger, and the things that go against our own belief system will completely negate or even not hear that they happened. And that pushes us more strongly into the beliefs we already hold. I'm going to be doing more videos on Arcane, like Mel, Jace, Jinx, Act 3, and more. Just let me know. And you can watch them all ad-free, sponsor-free, like all my videos on Nebula. And it's not just my videos, but Nando V Movies, Medlife Crisis, Renee Ritchie, MKBHD, Cinema Wins, and so many more. All ad-free, sponsor-free on Nebula. And bundled in for free when you sign up with today's sponsor, CuriosityStream, at curiositystream.com/Georgia Dow, or click the link below. And right now, because you watch this channel, you can get CuriosityStream for 26% off, less than $15 a year. That's less than the price of a medium pizza. $15 for the whole year. And that includes their thousands of amazing documentaries, like the series Illusions, Ambiguous Images, where Professor Shapiro shows us a range of images that can prompt multiple, equally valid interpretations by our brain. Rather than keeping to one, our brain will switch among them. So delve with me into illusions and study the neuropsychology behind them. Plus, you'll be supporting educational creators directly. For 26% off CuriosityStream, less than $15 a year, and you end up with Nebula bundled in for free. Free. Just click on the link below or go to curiositystream.com/Georgia Dow. It really helps this channel, so thank you so much. Hopefully I captured most of the scenes that you want. I didn't replay scenes that I've already gone through in my other videos. You might want to check out Caitlin and Vi, or the bridge scene between Echo and Jinx for some of the information on those. If I misinterpreted something or you see things a little differently, I would love to hear them. Let me know in the comments below, or of course on Patreon. They may just become part of another video. And if you really love my videos and want to help support, you can also support me on Patreon, where I put little tiny tidbits of my mild cosplay that I'm doing and thoughts and feelings. And you can, of course, hit subscribe.